Another person that has left media is James Corden. Now, I was actually really surprised when we started this, Doctor. We share the links. We talk about the topics, 24 to 48 hours before. Try not to do it too soon before. But you come into our pre podcast moment, and Dr. goes, "I've never heard of him." I'm surprised. He's everywhere. You probably would have noticed him doing what was it called? Carpool karaoke. Have you seen that, Dr. Rod?
Hey, listen, my mother reckons I'm boring because I studied economics at university. She's probably right. The other thing, of course, is I'm sure that many people watching our podcast have realised this by now. You and I are not exactly contemporaries in terms of our age. So I dare say our watching and listening habits don't overlap entirely.
although today our dressing habits are definitely overlap.
I noticed. Yes, I know. I think we're just going to have a chat about that in our debrief.
Maybe we should set up a uniform and we coordinate our colours every week.
Well, look, I started out the day wearing a striped shirt. I had a board meeting early this morning, and I looked at my striped shirt and thought, no, that won't look very good on camera at all.
Well,
so I changed.
Technology has changed a lot now that stripes aren't as bad as it used to be because of high-def cameras and everything.
Terrible, didn't they?
It used to be terrible. I was actually watching
stripes and checks.
I actually saw something today. Yeah, it was like this as you're watching it. Yeah,
they're terrible. Yeah,
it used to be the rule. I don't think it's not the case now.
It's funny. I put this shirt on, Craig, and I noticed there's a stain on it, but it's below the camera view. So I thought, oh well, it'll do.
It's okay. It's kind of my life. The reason why I actually started wearing T-shirts rather than my button-up shirt and my suit is, when I transitioned to doing all this stuff, I had a baby, and I'd usually be nursing my baby just before I'd be coming into sessions or whatever, or in between, and you don't want spew all over your jacket and everything like that. And there's been times that I've been recording that there's stuff all over my back. Actually, one of the videos that I recorded for our leadership, our free online leadership development program, go check it out. Shameless plug. Link in the description. I dare you go and watch it, and you'll notice there is one video where I recorded a whole video, and then afterwards I realized there was a bit that I wanted to expand on in the middle of it. So I went back and recorded this little bit, and Yash, who's our video guy, he edited me in. And watching it in replay, I realized that in between the time that I recorded the first video and then went out, I'd nursed my son, and he'd thrown up on me on my shoulder, and then I came back in and recorded that there was this wet patch on my shoulder, and then all of a sudden my shirt's fine, and then there's a wet patch, and then my shirt's fine. So, but you guys didn't come here to listen about our wardrobe, did you? Let's talk about James Corden now, host of the Late Show. I'm going to do this in air quotes. Comedian, not the biggest fan of his comedy. He kind of rubs me the wrong way. He British, very annoying humor. It's that type of humor that they're annoying and that's why it's funny. I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. Not the biggest fan of him. But he's now leaving the Late Show. Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight this is, number one is, he's just left in, I think it was last week that he did his final show, or the week before or something like that, that all these people are leaving media, and it's interesting to see these shifts. Now, there are reports that he's left because ratings have declined. Like those late shows, they're all losing big time. It's funny, you're watching some of the YouTube podcasts are getting better views than some of those shows, all of those shows pretty much. But he's, there's reports that he left because, they the declining, the environment. However, there was an interview that I saw of him sharing about the fact that he just wanted to leave because of his family. He's now got a young family. He's away a lot, and I actually felt that it was really noble. Apparently, he was offered a $55 million contract, something like that, and he turned it down. And I actually, look, once again, we don't know the real situations or anything like that, but on the surface, that's really applaudable. I actually really appreciate that a leader that is doing great things, is, he's making good money, and he's gained a great celebrity and everything like that, that he's gone, you know what? Enough is enough. My priorities now are to lead my family. My priorities are now, because he shared a story that he had to, they planned a Christmas holiday trip, and then he got called in to do filming on something, and he had to cancel it. And he said he's never forgiven himself for canceling Christmas. Like his kids, like, even though obviously Christmas still happened, everything like that, but it was like the year that they canceled Christmas. And he said he never wants that again. And so I implore that. Like, I was actually just speaking to someone today that they're struggling. I'm mentoring them through their leadership, and they were struggling with the fact that before they had a kid, they were really productive at work, and they were really successful, and they were doing all this stuff. But now he's had a kid. He's like, my attention is now divided, and I'm not performing as well as work. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You now have different priorities. You now have different needs, and God has called you into a different season. And so I love the fact that James Corden has kind of seen this moment to go, you know what? I'm called to be a father, and I've been neglecting that. I'm going to leave aside the money, leave aside the fame and the celebrity, and I'm going to actually go and lead my family. I think it's really credible. Dr. Rod, what's your advice to leaders that are battling that between growing a business, growing a ministry, performing at work or whatever, and being a leader in their home?
Well, look, you got to talk to God about it. There's no doubt about that. And look, I felt a great deal of empathy for him when I heard James sharing the reasons why he chose the path he did. I think he said his son was eight years old, I think.
Yeah.
That's an important age for young people, both girls and boys. Look, not every leader's in the position to be able to do what James Corden has done. And look, he'll find some other ways of making money. There's no two ways about that, because obviously there's a lot of goodwill out there for him, and he'll be able to find some private means. My understanding is that although you might be able to have an enforceable non-compete clause in a contract, you can't stop someone from setting up their own podcast.
Yeah,
because that's a private matter, you see. So as long as the podcast isn't, as it were, hosted by a large corporate or something like that, as my understanding is that you couldn't stop him from doing that, and he almost certainly will. However, he won't necessarily have the writers.
No,
some people will be aware that as we speak, there's a Hollywood writers' strike. And most of the late night television programs in America have been cancelled.
Yes.
Because the hosts don't write their own jokes.
No, they don't. Although I don't know why you would pay someone to write those words
maybe
that
they
apparently
don't pay
are
their
meant to be
writers
jokes.
enough. I don't know. Because one of the big worries is that the chatbots are going to do all the writing for them, you see. And they might do a better job, who knows.
Yes.
But look, the thing that I listened to his interview in its entirety, and one of the things that did go through my mind is, listen, these are the kinds of big decisions you need to talk over with the Lord and, of course, with your family.
Yeah.
And look, there was a time when I had my dream job. This is quite a few years ago. Absolutely loved it, but it required a lot of hours. I was very well paid. I have absolutely no issues about whether or not I was, paid for the work. I was. There was no issue about injustice there.
Yeah.
And my sort of theology, my little theology on all of this basically says any reward that is stored up for me in heaven is a shared reward with my family, with my wife,
Oh,
with
that's
my
good.
children. They were still in school at the time. Now, one of the decisions I made was that I would always be at home for breakfast and for dinner.
Yeah.
So I was always there when my children had their brekkie, and I was able to wave them off to the school bus. Now, I also used to go to work often at 2 a.m. in the morning and come back home at 6 or 7 o'clock, then go back to the office. I usually left by 6 at night. And back then too, we had enough money to go and dine out at restaurants fairly regularly. So I could ring my wife and say, look, I'll be home in 10 minutes. Let's go out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
So, we didn't have to worry about preparing a meal or anything like that. I can't do that now because my financial circumstances are very different. But I would claim, other people might disagree, but I would claim that I sincerely did my best to hear from the Lord in terms of how I was to juggle the work responsibility, bearing in mind this was my dream job.
Yeah.
So managing that, but at the same time not imposing a price that my own family were unwilling or unable to pay.
Yeah.
It's a fine line, and it's pretty difficult for us to judge anybody's decision as an outsider.
Yeah.
So the only thing, as I said, that really went through my mind as I listened was, look, as a Christian pastor and a Christian leader, I would say you've really got to involve both God and your family in a discussion.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not at all critical of what he shared on that interview, but if I heard him correctly, it was his decision.
Yeah.
I didn't get the impression that this was something that he'd discussed with family. He may well have, and it's highly likely that he did, of course, but that's just not included in that particular interview.
Yeah, I liked his approach because he was talking about like his son's now at an age where they can't just go in and out of school and be moved around and everything like that. So, as leaders, we do have to put the needs of our followers in front of ours. And I think that that's actually a very uncommon thing that's spoken about, like you spoke about earlier, the charismatic leader. They're like, well, I'm driving towards this outcome and you should come and serve my vision. It's like, well, actually, no. We're called to serve those people that we are leading, and we need to put their needs in front of ours. Now, with our OnPurposeCUBED leadership model, you'll see, if you go and check out the program free, we talk about that you have to find that balance. It's a Venn diagram, a balance between what you need, what the people that you're leading need, and what the project needs. And so you do need to balance all of those, and it's finding that nice balance. But we have to. There was something you said then, Dr. Rod, about you being able to come home and take them out to dinner. And one thing I spoke to this person I was mentoring today is we kind of have in our mind that we need to give everything 100%, right? Like, my family is 100% and my work is 100% and it changes through life. You can't actually give 100% to everything because then it's not 100%, right? However, what you can do is you can give 100% in that moment. I think that that's what makes the difference. Dr. Rod said he's there for breakfast and dinner. Now, there's no point Dr. Rod being there for breakfast and dinner if while he's there he's on his phone, or if while he's there he's making calls back to the office or checking emails, or even like his phone may not be there, but he's worrying about what's happening back at the office and concerned. Now, we've all been there. Look, we all do that. But the best thing is it's about being 100% in that moment. And I kind of like what Dr. Rod shared is that I used to come home and then take them out to dinner, because you know what? Sometimes when you're working a little bit harder, you should be bringing in more money then. And so your family should benefit from that as well, right? Like you should be able to spoil them for they're sacrificing time with their dad or with their husband or mother or whatever. So just focus on what is it that I've got to give at the moment. Maybe I don't have the money, but I've got the time. Maybe I've got resources. Maybe I can, maybe it's experiences. It's one thing that I used to travel a lot. So I used to take my wife on me when I used to travel for work. And that's what I had to give. I didn't have time to go on holidays or anything like that, but I tried to take her as much as I could when I traveled, because that's what I had, right? And so make sure you're giving 100% when you're in those moments. But going back to this decision for James Corden to focus on his family, good on him. And great advice from Dr. Rod. Make sure you seek discuss it with the family and with God, because maybe God's calling you to spend time with the family. I know that's when my son was born, I clearly heard the Lord say to me, it's time for family. I was in a business partnership and it was not conducive to what God wanted me for the next season. It was a lot of travel. It was long days, late nights, early starts. There was a lot of work, and I just knew it wasn't conducive, and I knew the Lord called me to step into the new season. So luckily, I had something to step in. I was able to, I have my business, so I kind of carried it on in a smaller capacity and was able to be better in control of my hours. But seek the wisdom of the Lord and seek, the advice and wisdom of your family as well. Hey, you just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership Podcast. If you like that, hit the like button and put a comment below. Hey, if you want to watch more videos like this, check out our channel, and while you're there, make sure you subscribe.